Afternoon again, guys. Short take between videos this time. I'm trying to be a little bit more proactive about it, and I mentioned in the last video I didn't really want to talk about too much about vegetables in that last video. It was really more about that Brazilian cherry and other similar things, but tonight I'm actually using a whole bunch of these, so I thought I'd get in and talk about the vegetables that I actually bother with, because I don't do a lot of vegetables. I find that for the majority of them it's often cheaper just to go straight to your local market and pick up whatever is on special and kind of make whatever you want to cook out of those. But I do like to have certain things on hand, and most often they are going to be herbs, because you get to your local market and no matter where it is, the herbs are always $2-3, at least in Australia, for a single bag or box of small amount of herbs. So I always have some on hand, and I do some vegetables. And the first one and the obvious one is the tomatoes. I run like a tomato style tomato. This one is called Trusty. And I do that because they typically grow quite quickly and they ripen quickly. They're a good size. You can use them for a lot of things. And next to them I run a beef steak of some sort, and they just vary from year to year depending upon what's at the store when I buy them, or if I decide to plant heritage seeds, what comes up. I think tomatoes are always good to have on hand because they're very easy to be used. Green when the season runs out, red, they're great. I use tomatoes, you can see, are actually at the front of the garden here, and that's because this is west. The sun is going down now as we speak, and it's very hot here, so these tomatoes actually provide the shade so that doesn't get scalded down here for the rest of my herbs. I have here some Perilla. Now Perilla is in the mint family. It's got a scent similar to most mints, but it's a little bit different. Perilla is actually one you're probably not going to see a lot unless you do a fair bit of Asian cooking, and even then specific Asian cooking. It's used a fair bit in Korean cuisine. It's got a more of an anisey sort of a smell rather than the mint. And I know that all mints have a fairly anisey smell, but this is quite anisey. It's a very nice herb. I use it a lot for fish, which I'm going to be doing tonight, as well as the one next door. And this is another anisey sort. This is Tarragon. This is French Tarragon. And Tarragon has a very mild sort of anisey flavour, which goes really well with fish as well. Parsley, of course, parsley down here, very useful. You can use it in almost any cuisine. You can substitute it for coriander in a lot of recipes, although it's not typically as nice when you do that. Behind here we have some Vietnamese mint, which again can be substituted for mint, another one in the mint family. It's again got that anisey kind of touch to it. It's they just go really well in seafood style dishes, and they look beautiful as a garnish. These flowers, which I'll use tonight in the dish that I'm cooking, I'll put these flowers on the dish to really just make it look a bit pretty. And down in the corner over there we have thyme, and thyme is the herb that I will use along with parsley and coriander the most often in the most dishes. It goes in almost any style that you're going to cook with. It goes in your stocks and your stews. It's just a great herb. I think that thyme, parsley and sage, just like the song goes, should be the basis of any herbs if you're only going to grow a couple, along with basil. And as you've seen, I've got a couple of different basil varieties, and I've got another basil in the backyard. So as far as herbs go, that covers all of the ones that I would bother planting. I do have a rosemary in the backyard, which I think is important as well. In terms of vegetables, I have cucumbers going. I like cucumbers because they're going to climb up the wall, so they don't take up a lot of space. They're usually very prolific. This is a pickling cucumber style. It's a gherkin style. Something's got to that and taken a chunk out of it, but they grow really fast. They put on a lot of flowers, and they just typically keep going and going, and when you're done with their height, you chop them down, chop them at the top, and they'll continue to produce, and they'll get thicker and thicker until you're ready to... Winter would normally come along in Canberra and knock them out, but we'll see what happens here in Brisbane. I don't know what happens at the end of autumn, whether or not they keep going, or they die, or they get covered in mildew. We'll soon find out. I do always keep as a ground cover going as well. You might have seen down here strawberries. I think that strawberries should be in most gardens. They cover the ground. they cool things down. They don't typically get unruly, but they can occasionally, and then they're very just easy to remove. Unlike their cousin over here, the raspberry. Now raspberries I have a love-hate relationship with, and the reason is everyone knows that raspberries are delicious and many people's favourite berries. At least the people that I know, they say that the raspberry is their favourite berry. I don't know, I don't love them for a number of reasons. Number one, they're more annoying to handle because if you've never grown raspberry, they've got these spikes on the stems. Now they're not as bad as a blackberry, and you can get thornless varieties, but a lot of the raspberries are going to be high chill varieties, so they will require some chill. And as they come into an environment they don't love as much, for instance Brisbane, they will start to behave a little bit differently. You have to get varieties that are less cold. Ouch, see, they're spiky. They're not fun to play with, and as you see down the stem here, those thorns can actually be quite vicious. The other thing that raspberries do, and if you've grown raspberries before you'll know this, but they wander. So they grow from canes and they fruit at the end of their canes up here. So typically a cane will grow, and in the second year for some varieties, or the first year for others, they'll put up their fruit at the end of the cane, and that's the fruit you eat. And then after the fruited, they die, and you cut the stem down to the ground. And what they're consistently doing is they're sending up more and more canes, a little bit like bamboo or other cane producing plants. Blackberries do the same thing. And if we can get down here without getting pricked, you can see some of the canes coming up from the ground. And as time goes on, these raspberries will wander further and further until you have a raspberry patch. Now raspberries can travel right under the ground, and they will almost every time travel under pavers and pop up in your lawn or pop up in other parts of your garden. And depending on how much you like them, you will start a war with your raspberries. Got another one over here where you'll be consistently trying to remove them and potentially forever regretting putting it in. Now this is a different variety. The spikes on this one still exist, but they're actually a lot softer, and that is one of the benefits. So if you go and you decide you want to put in raspberries, you can just have a look at them, see how much tolerance you have for spikes. I really dislike spiky plants because they just become a pain in the bum to remove the day you're done with them, and then all of a sudden at the end of the season you're cutting down these horrible spiky canes. If you do like raspberries though, and you are prepared to deal with that, they propagate very, very easily. You can pull the canes out from under the ground, they'll divide, just plant them wherever you want to go, and you can have new raspberry patches in a single season. So they're good high value plants. Just beware that they will like to walk and cause a lot of trouble. I have chilies on hand most of the time. Chilies are very, very adaptable. I have a range of chilies. This is a hot chili here. Actually this might be a banana chili. This is one that came along from Canberra with me that I just transplanted and didn't expect it to survive, frankly, because it's been in a little tiny pot for a long time and I didn't treat it very well, but it's coming back beautiful and healthy. I have another chili. Thought I had another. Oh, I put the other chili in the backyard, didn't I? I've got a whole bunch of new chilies that have just started. Here's another herb, by the way, that I keep on hand. This one is lemongrass. The lemongrass, if you're going to go to the shops and buy it, it is very, very expensive buying that. By a packet you get 1 or 2 stems, and it often sets me back at least $3 or $4 for a stem. But as long as you get a nice warm place, this lemongrass will grow and grow and grow. Really great, very well, a very good plant, very productive herb to have in your garden. It does require subtropical or tropical environments though, or arid environments. It's not going to put up with the cold. Got some more chilies started here. These are chilies. These are different types of chilies. So I've got some jalapenos going. I've got some different specialty Mexican chilies in there. A lot of those chilies I am going to smoke. So you can make chipotle style powders and sauces by smoking chilies. I've got some tomatillos in here, which I'm going to be trialing for the first time this year. Tomatillos are in the tomato family. They grow a little bit like a gooseberry with a husk around the outside, and they can be used in Mexican style dishes. And this year I really am going to be working on my Mexican cooking. I do love to cook, These are more chilies. And having all these different types of chilies and different types of, like for instance, the tomatillos here, they make a more authentic taste. I did have chili seeds started in here, and these are all heritage seedlings, these ones down here, and I do like to start my own heritage plants where possible, depending on when I get them in the ground and how well it takes and how long before they germinate. But all of these chilies are different types of heritage chilies that will be used for different reasons and purposes, different heat levels. The ones that didn't come up, these are actually the super hots. So in this instance they were habaneros, and I put in some other types of super hot chilies, ghost chilies and the likes, and they're much harder to get germinating, and I just chucked them in like the easier ones, and they just haven't bothered. I do typically put multiple seeds in a single pot just to really increase the chances, but even with multiple seeds they didn't come up at all. None of the super hots, these are all super hots as well, came up. They just can be a little bit finicky. If you really want to grow super hots, and I really didn't care if they came up or not, to be honest. This year I had so many different ones starting and trialing that losing a couple of them, not the end of the world. But if you really do want to get the super hots going, we can maybe talk about that in another video. They can be started using paper towel methods and heat mats and all sorts of fun stuff. But for most people, if you don't want to muck around with a super hot, I reckon you just go to the shops and purchase yourself some seedlings that have already started. But we'll jump across to the backyard and I will show you a couple of other things that I've got. Got the barbecue started for tonight. Maybe I'll even show you what I'm doing tonight. We'll see how much I can be bothered filming and trying to cook at the same time. Bananas do more than just produce delicious fruit. I cut them down frequently and use their leaves like I am tonight. I'm actually going to barbecue in a banana leaf tonight. I've got this here, which I use a lot of. This is a curry leaf. So curry leaf plants, these smell absolutely delicious. I love the smell of curry leaves. I typically only use them for Indian style cooking. They've got a citrusy, just an earthy, beautiful, they're just a beautiful fragrant plant. I really love the curry leaves, but I don't use them very often. And a basil, and this is a new type of basil that I'm trialing. This is a curly leafed, kind of like a purpley variegated basil. Smells exactly the same as the usual. So yeah, basil's a really great herb as well that I always have on hand. And I find with those particular herbs, here's some rosemary down here, just by having these herbs on hand, you can cook most cuisines that you come across. I've got some oregano floating around as well, which I use but not as commonly. So yeah, there's one big one that I've forgotten actually. One more herb that goes into most things, and this grows normally as a tree. That is of course the humble bay tree. I keep it in a pot and I mistreat this like no one would know. It is extremely hardy. Bay leaves are absolutely delicious. I put them in all my stocks, all my soups, most of my Asian cooking. I use it for everything, and it's in a, what is that, a 20 litre, 25 litre pot, and it produces more than enough leaves for me to do everything I could possibly need. If you put that in the garden, it would take over pretty quickly. They're very large trees, or at least they can be, so you need to have a fairly good space for them. I like to just keep them in a pot, use the leaves that I need, and leave it at that. But yeah, so tonight I told you previously that I was enjoying doing a lot of fishing in Brizzy, so I picked up a nice fish last night. So I'm actually going to be using a whole bunch of those herbs because I'm going to cook an Asian style fish on the barbecue. It's a big flathead, and I'm going to stuff it with a lot of those herbs. I'm going to make an Asian sauce to go along with it. We're walking over here because citrus is the other thing that I grow a lot of. I've got a lime in a pot in the front, the lemon here. I use a lot of lemons. These are actually getting a little bit past their time now, so I'm going to use primarily limes until some of these new fruits ripen up. But yeah, so I'm going to wrap a fish in banana leaves, all these different citruses. I use the rind of the citruses a lot as well. wrap the fish in banana leaves, chuck it on the barbecue, make a couple of Asian sauces to go with it perhaps, and yeah, have some rice, have some dinner. Delicious. Anyway guys, that's my kind of thoughts on herbs. The herbs that I like, the ones that I don't bother with. A big one that I actually personally don't bother with, and you may or may not think is important. Let me turn this TV off. Is coriander. In fact, if you have a look over here, I've got all my herbs already lined up. So we've got our Thai basil, we've got our parsley, tarragon, thyme. This is that perilla leaf, and here's our beautiful banana that we got. There's some chilies that I actually dried earlier as well. These are dried jalapeno chilies, so I smoke them on the barbecue, dry them out, get a really nice flavor off of those. And I guess while we're here, why not? Let's have a look at the start of the show. If I don't knock everything out of the fridge, taking her out. Beautiful flathead that I've already cleaned up, so taking the scales off that. I've already gutted her, so she's big. She's a nice 70 centimeter unit. I would most often actually return a flathead of this size because they are breeding females mostly, but I have a rule that I'll keep usually one fish for the family. I've been out quite frequently lately and haven't been particularly successful, so I thought we'd give everyone a bit of a treat, keep this one fish, and maybe we'll let the next few go just to make up for that. But I'm going to get straight into preparing all of this, these herbs, get my fish on the barbie. Maybe I'll take a picture for you of the final result, and in the meantime I'll see you all in the next one, guys. And I'm back. I just realized that I said in my last little bit there that I don't bother with coriander, and I should clarify that. I think coriander is one of the most important herbs out there. I just don't bother growing it because it is so cheap to buy for me at the shops. Unlike everything else, I can get 2 massive bunches of coriander for $2, and they are huge. And they come with a bit of dirt and stuff on them, but you know what, that's not important to me. And the other thing that I don't like about coriander is that in order to use it every time, most of the time, you have to rip off all the leaves. So I don't grow coriander for that reason. I buy it, and I buy a lot of coriander. So don't mistake me. Coriander, probably my most used herb of all time. Just the one that I personally don't bother growing. Alright guys, for reals now. Catch you in the next one.